even in many a game at Steinbrenner Field. Maybe batting as a left-handed hitter, he'll pop a couple over the fence, but don't expect too much from him at the plate.
It's best that Taylor didn't have to listen to those ugly things that were going to be said about him and his play. Like that's great that he doesn't get to hear from the team that is paying his salary. Like that's.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
Whether you're a diehard fan who vividly remembers Longo's game 162 just like us,
or you remember the early Devil Ray days of Wade Boggs and Carl Crawford,
we're here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 7th season covering the Rays daily.
In every season up till 2024, they've gone to the playoffs, but you can still grab your favorite Rays gear, settle in, and subscribe to our Locked On Rays YouTube channel and other podcast platforms. You can also find us on X and Instagram at Locked On Rays.
This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
All right, Ulises, before we dive into the topics du jour, an update on the stadium watch and the ball being in the Rays court.
Can I say that might be the silliest bit that we have ever done, and I love it.
I do too. I enjoy the bumper music, the theme. I don't necessarily like the days going upward, increasing, but it is fun to discuss. And Stu Sternberg actually had some comments on the stadium dilemma as well, which we'll get to. He talked to he was a guest speaker presenter at the prestigious Tiger Bay Club. Myself nor Ulises will probably ever be a part of that. That's for the movers and shakers, the influential and affluential. So we are not part of that group. But I wonder if Chris Latvala was there. You know, maybe he was able to sneak in. I would think he would get an invite if he wanted to go. And as we know, Latvala basically inspired that little intro that we have there. And his Twitter account is fun to watch, monitor, and engage with. He seems to be ticking some people off. I'm all for it. I love it. I mean, clap back at Stu Sternberg. It's about time somebody did in the public sphere.
Like we talked to him, and I said to him right on the show, I was like, his character arc has gone from like worst guy ever to like, oh my goodness, he's one of us. So yeah, if you're a Tampa Bay Ray fan and you're on X or Twitter, guess what? He's a follow. He's a must follow right now because he's going off every day.
Yeah, he is going off. Whereas, as we'll get to later on in the program, it seems like Ken Welch, the mayor for St. Petersburg, continues with the measured tone and not wanting to tick anybody off, particularly the Rays at this point. But before we get to that, do want to note and mention there was some activity over the past week. Taylor Walls and the Rays will not be going to arbitration. Instead, Taylor Walls signed a deal that will give him $1.3 million in 2025 and an option worth $2.45 million, or there's a buyout of $50,000. I don't think we've ever seen a buyout in my experience that has been that low. The option can increase another $50K if Walls gets 450 plate appearances in 2025, which, defensively, it's great to see him on the field. But frankly, I don't know if I can stomach 450 plus plate appearances from Taylor Walls, even in many a game at Steinbrenner Field. Maybe batting as a left-handed hitter, he'll pop a couple over the fence, but don't expect too much from him at the plate, in my opinion, anyway.
So many. Okay, yeah, let's dive in here. First, with that $50,000 buyout, I agree with you. We have seen so many baseball deals. I don't recall one that had a buyout that low. So I kind of want to understand that a little bit better. It would be nice to get some quotes regarding that buyout. I mean, maybe that obviously is never going to happen, but things that you would like as a fan is like, hey, why that way? Why structure it that way? That's number one. Number two, I will say it very plainly. If Taylor Walls gets 450 plate appearances in 2025, this team is not going to the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
And I don't think I'm alone in that train of thought. I know people are going to say like, oh, one player does not break or make the team. And I understand that, but it's in the context of what that means. If Taylor Walls is getting 450 plate appearances, it probably means that the team is really not pushing. Because if you're pushing, you wouldn't have a guy with a career 75 WRC plus getting 450 plus plate appearances. You wouldn't. You know who would be doing that? The Dodgers, because they've got a tank of an offense and they can survive a 75 WRC plus glove first guy at shortstop. The Rays, as they're structured right now, they cannot have a guy with that low of offensive production getting 450 plus plate appearances. They just can't.
It's funny you mentioned that because the last time and the only time that Walls has achieved that mark came in 2022 when he played 142 games and had 466 plate appearances. For the record, he had 8 dingers, a 172 batting average, 268 on base percentage, 285 slug, and 553 OPS. So it's really hard to stomach a guy getting that much action and only putting forth a 553 OPS. So I guess something would have to go terribly awry with Jose Caballero and or the Rays aren't ready to call up Carson Williams.
There you go. Exactly. Which we're going to talk about on Wednesday's episode with the prospect talk that we got scheduled there. But yeah, this is his first year with arbitration. I feel like it's best that Taylor didn't have to listen to those ugly things that were going to be said about him and his play. Like that's great that he doesn't get to hear from the team that is paying his salary. Like that's a good thing that he
I think limiting the animosity or ability to develop into a situation like that where there is a hint of just, you're saying bad things about me. I don't feel good about the organization anymore. And I'm going to tell it to all my other teammates. Like it's just not something that you want to have to deal with and be able to avoid at all costs, which I think is pretty rare for the Rays. Usually they're filed a trial once we're separated. So Walls wanted 1.575 mil. The Rays said, we can give you 1.3 mil. Usually that's it. Usually that's we're done. We're going to the 3 arbiters and figuring out what you're ultimately going to be paid. But, maybe this is something that the Rays continue to do going forward with certain players. But
but that's the thing though, Kevin. Like, just like I would like to get some quotes on why it was structured the way that you have the lowest buyout that we've ever seen at 50K. Another question or another quote that I would like to hear about is how come they broke their own imposed rule. Like, by the way, that's not a rule that you have to do that. It's a self-imposed rule that the Rays have done since 2008. where again filed to trial. So I'd like a quote not only about the buyout, but like what made them in this particular case go ahead and keep talking and come up with a deal. Because if I'm not mistaken, Jason Adam, Colin Poche, I believe maybe Harold Ramirez, but maybe I'm misspeaking there. But maybe the first two relief pitchers, I think it was around like 200K difference, 200, 300K difference, very similar to what the difference was with Taylor Walls. So I don't know. It would just be nice to know what changed, what happened.
Yeah. My only thought process with that would be, I believe arbitration hearings take place from late January to mid-February. So you're trying to get up geared for spring training. If you're the Rays, you don't want to have to deal with the distraction like this, yet another distraction. And same thing for Taylor Walls. You probably want him, if you plan to field a successful ball club, to be in the right headspace and not be thinking about off the field salary matters like this. Like, hey, just focus on training, your off-season regimen, and making sure you're in the best shape for spring training and beyond. And let's leave it at that. Let's settle it there. That's really my only thought. And unfortunately, like you mentioned, with the plate appearances, which I'll be really curious to see if he does hit that mark or not. That is going to be something to follow this season. But, Taylor Walls, if you look at his splits,
you have been a pioneer behind Taylor Wall's splits. I have to give you that. Just like with Drew Rasmussen and him being a starter, you've been a pioneer leading this charge. So I will give you props for that. And I will also have to give you props that you use Gametime.
Yeah.
You are a Gametime user, Kevin, and I think people should know. Look, attending NFL playoff games is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together, just like going to MLB playoffs, right? And Gametime, they've got this new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. So today, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Kevin, what time is it?
It is game time.
Talk to me about Taylor Wall's splits.
They're kind of crummy either way. Versus right-handed pitchers, he's got a 570 OPS. Versus left-handed pitchers, he has a 605 OPS. Now I will note it's interesting that he has a lower OPS versus right-handed pitchers, but more of a power profile. He's got, and of course, he's had a lot more at-bats and more games, but I think it still measures out to he has more ability to hit homers when he's batting from the left side. So maybe that's the only way to somewhat salvage this situation is get him at bats as a lefty at Steinbrenner Field and get a couple homers on the board. But don't really count too much on that because he doesn't hit the ball hard off the bat. He doesn't hit the ball hard often. And while he does walk, he strikes out quite a bit, much more so than you would want for a guy with so little pop.
It would make sense, as a lefty to be used in Steinbrenner Field, but yeah, the points disparity between as a lefty and a righty. I mean, if you're on YouTube, you can see the splits. 570 to 605. You would be putting him at his worst split, not only with batting average, but OBP, slugging. Like overall, he's a worse lefty hitter. But then again, it's what field are you on? The Steinbrenner with that short porch give him a little bit of an edge. That's something that maybe they can play. But like I was doing it cheekily in the first segment just to get to the ad break. But you've mentioned Cedric Mullins as an example, a guy who was a switch hitter and dropped it and then became a 30-30 guy. Now, obviously, we're not expecting that out of Taylor Walls. But it gives you something because, look, a guy that's defensively minded as Taylor Walls, what does that tell you? That he's a hard-working guy with the glove out there. He's doing all of the drills, and he's doing that every day. He's a phenomenal base runner, so he's doing everything that he can to be fit and to be ready. Okay. If he's doing all of those things, it means that he's putting maybe a little extra time in the defensive work, right? Which leaves less time for the bat. But if there's less time for the bat, and now you're dividing it by 2 because now he has to practice righty and lefty, then yeah, it's going to take a hit, man. So I would think if you don't have to split the time, the limited time that you have, with only one way to look at it, to one way to perfect your swing, because then you have 2 swings to perfect. You have 2 swings to work on. You have 2 profiles to work on. I think he's making it a little bit more difficult on himself by trying to be a switch hitter than if he just picked one. And if it's the lefty, it's the lefty. And he goes and tries to be a little bit more of a power guy and with as much power as he can have than as a righty.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a branding thing of it is cool to see a switch hitter and to be able to say you are that. But if you're not successful at it, it's moot at that point. So I would think at some point he's got to lean one way or the other. And I think the obvious choice is, hey, become a full-time left-handed hitter. I think if you do that, you can make up for that difference in splits, because it's not like the platoon is working for him when he's hitting as a righty versus lefty. And of course you have, whatever the numbers are these days, the percentage of right-handed pitchers versus left-handed pitchers, it might be a 70-30 breakdown or a 75-25 breakdown. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I would be okay if there's a situation where a lefty comes in and Walls is batting lefty. Okay, sub him out. Find somebody to fill that void and figure out if you can make the defense work for the last couple innings or whichever inning that you pull him from the game. But I am hoping, I know we haven't really touched on this. We touched on this when we spoke about Taylor Walls previously, he was dealing with, I believe, a torn labrum, and I'm sure that has, sapped some of his offensive ability and talent. But we've got quite the track record here. A lot of games, a lot of at-bats, and it's no longer a small sample size. So something has to give. And with that, there is that option in 2026. If you were to take a bet or a guess now on FanDuel or Prize Picks or any of the like, do you believe, not do you want or don't want, but do you think that Taylor Walls will be a member of this organization come 2026 opening day? I know it's a long time from now.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the Rays have, when they like a player and when they want a player to succeed, they are going to show you that they like the player and they want the guy to succeed. They wanted Alex Jackson to work out last year. Okay. They wanted Johnny DeLuca to work out last year. Johnny DeLuca improved his numbers by the end of the season, and especially after the July 31st trade deadline. If you look at his splits after starting August, Johnny DeLuca hit pretty well. So they're never shy about that. They are not shy about telling you that they feel like they are a better team with Taylor Walls is on the field. I think the vast majority of fans do not feel that way. But they haven't been shy about telling us that, or at least showing us that. Yeah. There is something about that contract that I was talking to on X to Steve Kinsella. I hope that I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He did say the Rays can decline the option next year and go to arbitration with him next year if he's here. Marlins did it with Wendell a few years ago, and Brewers with Devin Williams. So the Rays don't necessarily have to pick up that $2 million and 45 option for 2026. Yeah. They can just basically give him the buyout and then just go to arbitration with him.
No, that makes sense. I understand that. And I'm with you. I think that he's just going to be a player that is in a Rays uniform for quite some time until he really gets to the point of being too expensive. And, other teams may not value him like the Rays value him. So if you plan to trade him, you might not get anything outside of some cost savings there.
Rose-colored lenses. Rose-colored lenses. Junior pops off in 25. So like in 26, you know he's going to be great. Carson Williams, 2026. He's the guy. Maybe he makes his debut late 2025. I don't know about Bilal. We don't know about Yandy Diaz. We don't know if Meade or Jonathan Aranda is going to be guys like that. But if Josh Lowe, for example, is a guy that's a young guy. So those three, Junior, Carson, and Josh, depending if you're adding a little bit more slug, now you can think about a Taylor Walls being a really effective seventh inning replacement. At second, third, short, depending on whatever you need. Now you can see it as something valuable. But when we talk about getting 400 plus plate appearances, that's when maybe the risk reward is at least a little bit shifted towards the negative.
Last thing on Taylor Walls, I wonder if the Rays will have him bat 8th or 9th. Because I would think you want to get him as few plate appearances as possible. But then again, he does have the walk rate in his favor. So if he can draw a walk and turn the lineup over and use his base running skills, that might serve his ability. So
I think that's great. Ninth.
Yeah, let's leave it at that. Ninth,
you have less plate appearances, and I love that. Exactly. The walk rate is high enough that if he can turn the lineup over, he's a good base runner. A Yandy Diaz single, a Brendan Lau single, whatever, boom, you get home.
Less switch hitting, more bunting and walking. That's all we need from the number 9 spot when it comes to that. So quickly here, we also want to note, as we mentioned, Stu Sternberg spoke at a function, Tiger Bay Club, where basically it brings together some influential people, including politicians. The mayor of Clearwater was there. The mayor of Tampa was there. The mayor of St. Petersburg was there. Colleen Wright with the Tampa Bay Times, friend of the program, who we've had on multiple times, basically outlined some of the comments that Sternberg made during that gathering. The obvious was, quote, "We have to make a decision on the stadium deal by March 31st. No crap." He goes on to say, "We'll decide how we want to proceed at that point. Well, before that point, we have to make a decision. So we'll have something by then." Asked what would help drive that decision, Sternberg said he didn't know. "I'll make sure our organization does what's necessary to meet whatever conditions we need to meet." So it's hard to gather what he's trying to say without really saying anything, but based on doing what's necessary to meet certain conditions, it would seem like they would ultimately move forward with this stadium deal. You hope, but
it seems like that, right? Like, again, I'll make sure our organization does what's necessary to meet whatever conditions we need to meet. I don't know how you can take that negatively.
Right.
If you're a Rays fan, I mean, that says we'll get it done. We don't know how, but I'm going to make sure that our organization gets anything that they need to do to be done.
Yeah.
I think that's the other quotes are basically just filler words, honestly, like most politicians and most people in power when they're they're given a microphone, it's just blah 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 blah. It's nothing. But that quote, that last one, I don't know how, if you're a Rays fan, you don't just start smiling, nodding very slowly, because time is ticking, and we've done the little bit every time with our episode. 42 days now,
right? Yeah, and I think it was important for the county and the city to essentially put their foot down and say, we don't believe what you're claiming about delaying the votes, increasing the cost of building a new stadium by an extravagant number. Ken Welch, the mayor of St. Petersburg, said that we have not seen any data or any documents or anything that itemizes what those what goes to those cost overruns. So I think from the beginning, it was the Rays, throwing crap against the wall, hoping it stuck, that they can, get a better deal than they originally bargained for. And they essentially used the hurricane, tried to use the hurricane to their advantage, and it backfired. And now MLB is getting involved, and it is a huge PR loss for them. So really there's nothing left to do but to find a way to come up with that $700 million, whether you have to sell a portion of the team, so be it. Whether you have to get a loan, so be it. Whether you have to get angel financing and a venture capitalist, so be it. A big corporation to, assist. Whatever you have to do to get it done.
Do Cameo. He can, do those little bits for $20. Yeah.
Yes. And there still seems to be, it's as funny as it is, there still seems to be the thought process out there. We saw some comments that, the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County is still angling to get the Rays. I don't think that's the case. Mayor Jane Castor said that as much. So we have that. And then
what do you think about her quote, Kev? Because she says, that would be going against your family member when they were talking about the opportunity that Tampa might have a third chance at the Rays. Yeah. She said that quote. What do you think about that?
No, I get it. And I think she's just at this point trying to stay out of it and not upset the apple cart. But I think that's kind of a lost cause at this point. I think that it's St. Pete, Pinellas County, or bust. Because we talked about it. I don't think Tampa or Hillsborough County could come up with as good of a deal as the Rays want, and they don't have the amount of redevelopment that they can profiteer off of as well.
Even if I offer Stu my house for parking, that's just not going to happen.
No, that's not going to be enough. It's going to take a lot more than that. Maybe acres and acres and acres of land that can be given up there. So yeah, that's what we have there. One other little tidbit was Clearwater Mayor Bruce Rector was still perturbed that the Rays didn't ultimately select the Phillies spring training site for regular season action. And as was mentioned on the show, that was a decision above the Rays. That was MLB saying the facilities aren't up to par. There's other reasons why it's not up to par. No, I don't care how many politicians talk about it. The Philly spring training site, the Dunedin spring training site, we're not having Major League Baseball games there. It's done.
Exactly.
So,
no,
all right. We have that. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed. Tomorrow we have some prospect rankings to talk about, plus more. In the meantime, hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you tomorrow.